9 burn, loot, murder rioters issued trespassing summons for march past the McCloskey's house in St. Louis. Yeah, remember that broken gate? Remember all that stuff they never talked about in the media? 9 burn, loot, murder rioters have been issued trespassing summons for marching onto a private St. Louis street in June. One of the rioters confirmed the story on Twitter. And just listen to them crying. I was just sent a summons to appear in court for trespassing on private property in Portland Plaza, a.k.a. the street Patricia Mark Bukowski live on. I had a gun waved in my face by them, but trespassing is what matters. Yes! How do you expect them to react when a mob of violent rioters show up on their property after having broken down the gate? You've ignored every warning. Whatever happens to you at that point, dude, you guys are lucky they didn't shoot you. Phew, for the folks that can't comprehend, this isn't an admittance to trespassing or validating the McCloskey story. It's a comparison of walking down the street versus threatening folks with a deadly weapon and policing. Police didn't send the McCloskey citations, but sent us them. Are you guys really that dumb? Were you not paying attention at how the DA was desperately trying to stick them with something for daring to do the cops' job and actually defend themselves? You remember how the gun that Patricia had was non-operable? And one of the DA's assistants actually took it apart and reassembled it to make it operable and then tried to admit that as evidence? Did you guys forget that story? How they were literally effectively fabricating evidence to try to hit these guys with something for the high crime of defending themselves and their property from violent rioters and looters? And you expect sympathy? I hope you guys realize the patience the public has with this is wearing off. The only reason there hasn't been massive blowback against the violent riots and looting is because you've been doing it in your own cities. And let's be honest here. I have no sympathy for these leftist cities. They're getting everything they voted for. They're getting everything they deserve. If you live in one of those cities and you have a problem with it, well, maybe vote correctly next time is all I'm going to say there. Maybe you should consider that because you're only getting exactly what you voted for. And they've tried leaving their leftist enclaves a few times, only to be met with resistance and promptly retreat. So I can see why no one's really in a hurry to do anything. I can see why they're just letting it happen. Because really, it's in Trump's best interest to let this shit keep happening. The longer this goes on, all that happens is people in these cities finally realize how fucking stupid they've been and how foolishly they've been voting. And people outside of these cities, they're being pushed even further into their beliefs. Like, oh, wow, we definitely don't want this shit here. What type of voting led to this? Wow, let's make sure we don't make that mistake. But even among you tolerant leftists, the tolerance is starting to wear thin. So we're probably going to be seeing a lot more resistance as time goes by. And that's I'm looking forward to. That's the point where we can finally say, all right, you guys seem to have learned your lesson. We can come in and help you fix the problem now. But definitely don't bail these people out of their own mess. These people voted for this shit. Let them clean it up themselves. Once they clean it up themselves and on their own without our help, then we can come to them and say, all right, now that you've learned your lesson and dug yourself out of it, now we can work together to fix the problem. Because if we bail them out before they have a chance to learn their lesson, they will just keep doing this over and over again. They'll keep making the same mistakes. So there comes a time when we just force them to clean up after themselves and hope they learn. So we'll see where this goes. So this is from the Daily Mail. Proving that the previous comments were a lie, by the way. It's like, oh, the cops didn't go after them. Like, well, turns out they did. Mark and Patricia McCloskey were both charged in July with unlawful use of a weapon in the case that landed them in a spot at the Republican National Convention last month. Oh, yeah, and I hope they milk this for everything it's worth. May as well. That's the only way you can turn this into a positive for them. Police spokeswoman Evita Caldwell on Friday confirmed that 9 rioters have been issued summonses, but said the St. Louis City Council's office is still deciding whether to issue charges on the citations. I hope Trump sees this and maybe he can bring the feds in. If we can throw down some federal charges, that would be nice. Yeah, the Reverend Daryl Gray, who led the riot, called the citations an attempt to intimidate peaceful rioters. You tore down the gate of private property and marched onto someone's private property in an attempt to intimidate them with a show of force. But you're totally a peaceful protest, by the way. So, for the record, the vast majority of places in the U.S. have laws against protests in residential areas. You're supposed to limit that to like downtown and business districts. You're actually not allowed to do this, even if it is a peaceful protest. You're not allowed to fuck with people in their homes. But they don't care. They don't care. Yeah, we're not going to be threatened, and that's what's happening across this country, said Gray, who was not issued a summons. Maybe he should have been. Yeah, see, these same people who are trying to threaten others into submission to them are mad when other people are defending themselves. This is America in current year. You are the innocent victim if you're the one who instigated the situation in the first place. You've got local governments and states who are trying to charge rioters, financially charge them, wanting them to pay costs, and they fucking should, because they're the ones who caused the damage. You've got others who want to make it a law against exercising our First Amendment right. Your First Amendment right to peacefully riot and cause $500,000 worth of damage? No, $500 million. The governor of Minnesota, isn't that what he tried? He tried to get federal aid. He tried to get those mostly peaceful protests declared a federal disaster. So Minneapolis and St. Paul and all these other cities that had $500 million worth of damage caused by peaceful riots. He wants these peaceful protests declared a federal disaster. So we, the taxpayer, have to pay for this shit. I am so glad Trump said no. It's like, nope, you guys refuse to put these violent rioters down. You let them cause $500 million of damage. You can pay for it your own fucking selves. That's what we should be doing. The rest of us should not have to foot the bill for someone else's violent rioting and looting. Yeah, on June 28th, about 300 people rioting against allegedly racial injustice veered onto a private street. Yeah, through a gate that was busted through. It was a complete accident. Anyone could have made that mistake. The McCloskey said rioters ignored a no trespassing sign and broke through a gate, but the rioters said the gate was open. Oh, coincidentally, they broke their own gate right before you showed up. Yeah, Mark McCloskey, 63, came out of the couple's Renaissance Palazzo-style mansion with an AR-15 semi-automatic rifle, a probable cause statement said. Patricia McCloskey, 61, emerged with a semi-automatic handgun. No shots were fired. Missouri law allows homeowners to use force, even lethal force, to defend their homes. And yet they still tried to charge them because the government doesn't want people taking care of themselves. How screwed of a country do you have to live in where the police stand down and let the violent rioters have their way with you, and the second you defend yourself, now the cops are right there on the scene instantly to arrest you for daring to defend yourself? Every single time I see something like this happen, I'm actually being pushed more and more towards their defund the police rhetoric. Because what the fuck is the point of us even having them around if they're going to stand back and they're going to stand down when we need them, and then they're going to show up when we defend them ourselves, when we do their jobs for them and we defend ourselves without them? Now they're going to show up to arrest us? Every time I see a story like this, I'm like, maybe we should defund them, because at least then no one would be standing in our way when we're defending ourselves. At least then we'd be able to defend ourselves without fear. Be very careful, governors, mayors, police departments. When you tell You're the police who are supposed to protect us, or so you tell us. When every time you tell them to stand down and let violent rioters have their way and then punish us for defending ourselves, we start sympathizing with them and their defund the police rhetoric. Be very careful if you continue to do this. Police probable cause statement said rioters feared being injured due to Patricia McCloskey's finger being on the trigger, coupled with her excited demeanor. Yeah. But fuck these guys who just had their home broken into. No one gives a shit about the fear they were going through, though. Fuck the actual victims in this case. Yeah, they should be sent to jail for daring to defend themselves. Oh man, I am so excited to tell you guys right now that finally, after about a year of build-up and shilling, we have launched Blade Devil on Indiegogo, and so far it is doing so well thanks to awesome people like you. If you haven't backed it yet, then please check the links in the description and check out Blade Devil on Indiegogo. You will not be disappointed. Looking forward to seeing you there.